Hello my beautiful viewers, on this lovely Sunday morning. I am basically just going to make this little bonus video just for anyone who wants to watch it. Just my personal do's and don'ts and hints and tips, or whatever you want to call it, for the Great North Run. Yeah, it's pretty much that. I'm just obviously not a nutritionist, what the fuck am I talking about? Nutritionalist. I'm not clearly not any kind of personal trainer, just someone that's done a few of them and a few different kind of longer distance runs, and just want to give you some tips to anyone who might just stumble across this video. Obviously some of the stuff will be specific enough for the Great North Run, and some of it will just be for any kind of half marathon stuff in general. Today, coming to Moncton Stadium, I think according to the website I've still got like an hour and 20 minutes before it shuts, but I want to use a running track, but I'm hoping it's not like booked out. I know it gets booked out on a Monday night, I think, for a Washington Running Club, I think. But did that Tougher Park run yesterday, just felt like, you know, get a few miles into the on the running track, very easy going, whilst having a chat to you while getting things off my little list. That's the plan. Let's see how it goes. So have the track till 4:45. The only other person here is a very athletic looking gentleman over there who looks like he should be on a running track. But I'm not intimidated because I'm doing my own thing. Let's see, just making sure everything is in my hoodie before I take it off, and then I'll get started. So, if you've never been here, this is the running track there. Lovely seating area. Kids actually had their sports day here, which is weird because we're kind of all sitting here, and it was different but good. Anyway, I'm going to get sorted. Right, make sure I start your watch. Right, so somebody very once wisely said we'll start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. Right, so that's quite annoying actually. I thought it would be alright, but I'm struggling. So we'll go with pre-run. I get up in the morning, I will talk about nutrition and stuff later, but basically getting there. Now, metros aren't the best because they are older. You've got the new stock, it is getting better, and the buses, unfortunately, they are the best way of getting there. So you might be relying on them. Just leaving plenty of time, because last time I went there, 2 metros broke down on the way there, and I kind of did miss the start because it's obviously had delay, but I didn't get there as soon as I would like, and I wasn't able to just get into a groove and stuff like that. Because once you get to the metro station and you're following the masses, it is still quite a way to go. Doesn't always feel it, but especially if you're one of the last runners, you are right up that thing, and obviously it can take quite a while. Oh, I tell you, my lungs never want to work straight away. One of them people where everything's just a bit crappy the first mile. So what else was I going to say? Yeah. So if you live near enough to walk, I would walk. If you're at a hotel near enough to walk, I would walk. Buses are rammed, metros are rammed, and they are uncomfortably full. So there is that side of stuff. Like, if you are bringing kids to the start, probably would avoid metros if you can, at least at the peak time. If you're bringing a pram, definitely avoid the metro. I know it's not always a choice for people, but if it is a choice for you, I would avoid it, because, like, obviously there's room for little kids and people will fit them in where they can, but that you don't always see them, and can't imagine it being very nice for the kid. So, you know, my kids particularly don't like it when the metros are that full. I go to work on the metro in the morning and there and back on the night, so sorry, there in the morning, back on the night, so I'm used to the metros being really full. So things to remember. I say there's a further walk than you think it is to the run. Plenty of places jumping for wheeze if needs be, but they do provide urinals and things like that. A lot of the other stuff's kind of weather dependent. If it's hot, try and stay in the shade, because it can get really hot and you will be there for a long time. Can't stress that enough. I've done the run before, and after like the Mo Farahs and everybody started and done their run, like they would have been at South Shields and probably most of the way home by the time I even got started. I think the longest I waited from the actual start being like 2.5 hours just to get over the starting line. So don't forget, it is a big race and there's a lot of people doing it, but you just gotta get prepared for it. Like, as I say, you're quite exposed for a lot of it. If you're under one of the tunnels, you know, if it's sunny, try to leave it a little while before you go into the pens and stand in the shade on the sides under the trees and things like that. Likewise, if it's cold and wet, bring a jacket or something. What they do is they give they collect all the coats and stuff that you leave at the start and they give them to charity. So if you do that, you do that. Like last year when I did the Great Scottish Half Marathon, I basically, the day before, went to a charity shop in Jarrow, bought a hoodie, took it in the morning before the race started, took it off, left it on the side. Oh yeah, just things like little jackets. If you've got something that you mean throughout, it might still have time to buy something cheap unvinted. Honestly, just go to a charity shop. It's not a fashion parade. Chuck something on. If you want to wear a running vest for your run, if you've got a little thin jacket and you just want to chuck it in the back at the end, again, your preference. I'll also say stay hydrated at the start as well. I say you're waiting for a long time, sometimes in the sun, you're nervous, probably be weighing a bit more, but that's where the catch-22 comes into it. You'd be drinking more, so you'd be weighing more, but you'd be fine. See what I have to think of. I did have a list, but foolishly left it in the house. I'll come back in a second. I think I more remember one of the things was just basically back to the metros. Just everyone's trying to get there, everyone wants to get there for the start. You're all going to get there for the start. It's just, you know, you just have to settle your nerves and think, don't need to be there an hour before it starts and all this other stuff. So if you can't get on a metro, or the metro's around, just basically don't be a dick. And buses the same, say don't get on there to like uncomfortable levels of the crowd, because all it's going to do is make everyone on the metro feel anxious unnecessarily. Obviously if there's room, fit in. But yeah, that's all I think of for the start. As I say, stay warm, stay cold. I would say be prepared as well that if you're right at the back, I think it's the, I'd say pinks, might be purples. I did start there once, and just be prepared that so if you're all the way back there, you're not going to see the red arrows. Basically they'll be long gone by the time you're even within view. Then they do a flyover, sometimes when you're like halfway around, by the time you start you probably miss that too. But don't worry about it. Like, just be prepared that you might not see them. It might be foggy. You might not see them because of that. They might cancel because they're being double booked. Who knows? I'm trying to think of reasons why I've not seen them in the past. Why? Yeah, that's it for the start. Right, so as we're kind of semi on the subject of pre-run stuff, I will go on the subject of nutrition. See, I'm not a nutritionist, so you have to make your own decisions on this, but it's just stuff that's worked for me in the past. Obviously, if you are a super fit athlete and you know how to fuel your body, obviously you're not going to pay attention to this, but this is more just for people who are kind of, you know, overthink every aspect of it. Might be the first half marathon, things like that. Basically, the problem you've got going on the run, the further you are back, the longer you're going to have to wait to start. So fuel yourself correctly in the morning. Generally speaking, if I've got an earlier start, I might have some jam and toast. If I've got a late start, sometimes I'll have jam and toast, not much, but then followed by a little bit of porridge, just something like, with a more slow release energy and things like that. But even then, I tend not to eat too much because I'll just feel uncomfortable and bloated when I'm running, which is not what you want. For the week leading up to it, like the whole carb loading and stuff like that, I would recommend being careful, because I found, stumbled upon this information once from a professional runner, and I kind of stuck with it since, and it's been quite well for me. Basically saying, like, you know, carb load during the week like you normally would, but if your run's on a Sunday, eating a massive bowl full of pasta or whatever on a Saturday night isn't going to help you. Basically, it's like your body hasn't even had time to process that. So what I do is I will carb load during the week. Say if the run's on a Sunday, I might have something like light and carb load type, like on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon rather. But on the evening, I'll generally have something quite light. Might have just like a chicken wrap with a bit of lettuce in it or something like that. Like nothing massive, but enough to fill you up. And that's helped me. Like, my last few times have gotten better, in part because, you know, you haven't felt so bloated. As I say, this is just stuff that's worked for me. Might not work for you, but it might. If it does, good for you. That's what I'll be doing. But keep in mind, I'll not be winning it. So I know that might come as news to you, but it won't. But yeah, just be sensible. Like, you know, during your training, you should have been doing bits of carb loading and all sorts of stuff, kind of to see where the limits are and things like that. You know, you might have already figured out your diet. Depends how prepared you want to be, I suppose. But then, you know, you might not, and this might come in handy either way. Hope it works for you, because that's what I'll be doing. It is warm. Doesn't look it. It looks grim as hell, but it's warm. Give me that athletic guy. He's gone inside. Clearly intimidated by my physique. Next comes just for the bits of information I found for the run itself. If you've done half marathons before, this is not one where you're going to get a PB. Basically, unless you're running with a load of fast people, you're not getting a PB on this. There's far too many people and far too many levels of fitness to get a PB. Like, I've never done this run without my watch telling me that I've done quarter of a mile to half a mile longer than it actually is, because of the weaving around people that you end up doing. Which just, you don't know, like, don't be a dick about that as well. Like, you know, it is Great North Run in part it's just a giant fun run. Essentially people doing stuff for charity, people just to take it off the bucket list. It is not a run full of professional runners, especially the latter end of it. So people, much like myself, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle of, like, I know on my best day I can do a half marathon in 2 hours, but there's people there like range from being able to do it in an hour to being able to do it in like 4 hours. And sometimes they're mixed up. Sometimes when people, you know, might unintentionally overestimate the finishing times when they're applying, or, you know, I've had cases in the past where in my head that's how fit I am, that's what I'm doing it, but then, you know, 6-7 months later, a few injuries later, and you're nowhere near your best. So really you probably could have dropped down a level, and you might not know that until you start running with other people, and you're like, oh shit, everyone's much faster than me, and they aren't absolutely blowing up their arse and sweating after 100 yards. But saying that, you know, there's other things to take into account as well. Like, you know, as I was saying, there's a lot of charity runners and things like that. So I imagine at some point, especially if you're at the latter end, as I say, if you're like one of the people who's like, you finish like 2.5+ hours, there are going to be times where you're met with walls of walking friends, which again, you know, as I said before, don't be an arse about it. Just know they're doing it, they're having a bit of a crack on. One of them might need to catch a breath so they'll walk, but obviously they're not like Star Wars stormtroopers. They don't go in single file to hide the numbers. They generally spread out across the road, and it can be frustrating. But also, I think to remember is that people will be stopping, like, the state they'll run a state like this, and then I'll just do this, and you might be right up their arse when they do that, but that person's not doing it out of spite for you. That person has probably pushed themselves as far as they can, and no, they might not have enough experience to go, right, somebody might be behind me, they're just, I'm not going to need to walk. Personally, if it's me, say here, and I'm at the Great North Run, if I ever feel like I'm tired, I need a rest, most I get a car, I look that way, I'll go over to the side, and then I might have a little bit of a walk. No wrong with doing that. You're not getting in people's way, you're not annoying people. So it's a double-edged sword where you kind of have to try to be aware of who's around you, but at the same time, somebody does it right in front of you, just be nice. You know, if someone looks hurt, ask if they're alright, you know, because it might just be a case of, oh, I've hurt myself, and alright, I've actually got a couple of spare paracetamol here in my pocket, do you want some? You never know. But that does bring on, like, if it's a warm day, they normally have like sprinklers on and stuff like that, like showers, use them. Can work wonders and cool you down. What else was I going to say? Yeah, just the water stations themselves, there are plenty. I would say when you need a drink, get a drink, but be careful, just don't guzzle the water. If you get a bottle of water and you nick that water, even if it's really hot and that's what you want to do and your body's saying I need this, you're probably gonna vomit for 2 or 3 minutes later. So just have swigs. There's no rush to finish the water, it's got a lid, so you're just having a drink, swig, put down. Once you're done with it, put it on the side of the road or a bin if there's no bins there. Other way around, put it on the side of the road if there's no bins. Don't just chuck it on the floor. The amount of times I've seen people roll their ankles or do themselves injuries, or nearly done it myself, because, like, imagine this, but it is just covered full of bottles. Most of them are half empty because people just chucked them after a mouthful. But it kind of gets that bad, and you've got so many people you can't see, so next thing you know you're standing on a half full bottle and you're doing your ankle in. So I think we all know there's no like malicious intent by people to do it. Just be a bit more aware. That's all I'm saying. Anything else to do with the water stations, I can't remember they are, but generally, as you should always do at any running event, so thank you. Be courteous, goddammit. Someone's given up their time to stand there and hand out water, so least you can do is say thank you. And that goes not just for this, but for any run, for any marshal, whether it be park run or just any run really. You should always say thank you to volunteers, and that should go without saying. And if you don't, oh, shame on you. I'm trying to remember what else I came up with on my list. There was a couple of things I just remembered. First one, chances are you will start off far too fast. You got the excitement, you got the adrenaline, you've been waiting a while to get started. All this stuff you've been putting in, like building up to for months and months and months, all the training. Chances are you're going to start off too fast. What's happened to me in the past is, by the time I got to Tyne Bridge, or even before then, I'm not realising, and I'm going faster than I've been training for, is I'm like, oh shit, I am knackered already. Why do I feel this way? Basically, I've come on a run by mistake. This is not good. What's gonna happen? But yeah, that's it. By the time you get across the bridge and you're uphill and downhill, and then you get round to Gateshead Stadium about mile 3, generally speaking, you're running sorted by then. But what I'd say is kind of just treat your body as if you're riding a pedal bike. You know, if you're knackered, just drop down a gear. Doesn't matter if you are been training for a certain pace and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, you know what you need to do. But if you're just doing this for a bit of crack, you've been doing a run, started off too early, you're feeling tired, just take the pace up a bit. It's as straightforward as that. One of the things I will say is, despite what people tell you, Great North Run is a lot hillier than you think. A lot of people almost treat it like it's straight. It isn't. You got downhill at the start, which is why you generally end up going fast. Unless you go over the overpass, you got the underpasses with all the oggies and all that. Oh, I've done both. I actually preferred going over, not because of the noise levels and how antisocial I am, and I just kind of felt like I got my legs warmed up a little bit quicker because I was having to work on a little bit more for the uphill. But again, personal preference. So you go down till just before the Tyne Bridge, and it comes up, and that's the first one where you've probably driven it quite a few times, and you go, hey, this is steep. And I think like half the bridge is uphill, which you don't realise half the time. Then you go over this side downhill a little bit, and that's where you get your first little bit of a hill up to the Felon bypass. Then it turns around at Felon bypass, down, then up, and then down, then relatively flat with Gateshead Stadium, and then that road kind of like, just at some point before you get to Hewitt, just starts to steadily incline. So some of the time before you get the obvious bits, you're thinking like, hey, I'm feeling proper knackered here, right? And this is because it feels more uphill than it is. Obviously then you get to Hewitt after steady incline for a bit, then it's a bit of a decline, then another incline, and then you go down to, I think it's Whitemare Pool roundabout, which is not far from my house actually. And then you kind of go down, and that's like a pretty steady-ish, flattish downhill for about 1.5 miles. Then just past the mile, I want to say 7 marker, which is really near where I live, which is always the hardest bit. Just saying, hey, I'm going home, I can't be bothered, because my house is like 40 yards from there or something. But you go up, and then you go down a bit, but then you kind of into the steady incline, and then you kind of almost pretty much at the bottom of John Reid Road. The first like 3/4 mile John Reid Road, it's like up, then a little bit down, and then you kind of turn the corner, and that's where you kind of like, you get a proper view of the masses. And it's amazing to see, but depending on the heat, depending what wave you start with, kind of a bit like The Walking Dead. But then you're up a hill, and I don't think that hill feels like it ends, or probably doesn't end until you get to the seafront, which is the next spot. You get just before the seafront, and when you drop down to the seafront, it's to be careful there. It's quite steep. My friend Jonathan did that last year, went over on his horse. He said his shoe just slipped on the freshly painted road signs or road markings, and he had to be held up by a lovely old woman. But yeah, like you run uphill, your legs are quite tight at that point. I think you're about 11.5 miles in or something daft like that. Don't get me wrong, it's lovely seeing that sea, but because you've been running at that angle for so long, you know, people's knees give way at all sorts. If you're right at the back, chances are you're probably going to walk down that hill, if I'm honest. Then you get to sea, and I can't stress this enough, when you get to sea, don't just think you're at the end, you're going for a mad sprint finish. That's a very bad idea. Basically you turn around at the bottom, and then there's a hill. It's not a massive hill, but it's enough to take it out here. Then it's just flatten out for like pretty much the last mile. But when you are on that last mile, that's kind of, that mile can make or break you, if I'm honest. If you are on the verge of cramp or whatever, some people go for it, legs cramp up and they're done for. And at walking, if you're struggling at that point, that mile can feel like 5 miles. If you are flying and everything's going well, that mile feels like 30 yards. There's lots of people there, lots of cheering, lots of people bigging you up. Or even if you're like one of the last people and you're walking, there'll still be people there cheering you on. If you are last, there's a realistic side of it that there is less people there, but still busy. And then you'll get to the end eventually, and you will get to the end. Even if you are half a mile away and you're in the pain cave and you're struggling, you will make that end, even if you got to be on your hands and knees. And you'll finish that line, and you'll be filled with all sorts. You're happy, you're relieved, depends what cause you're running for. You know, if you've given it your all, chances are you're emotional. There's a few times I've finished, I just random tears in my eyes. I know I was watching whatever Freddie runs. I know he's spoken about, like, you know, sometimes at the end of runs he'll burst into tears, and it's like the effort you put into it and that relief from finally getting it done. You know, if you're doing it for a charity, or kind of like this year I'm doing it like in memory of my auntie who passed away of MS related diseases last year. You know, I've no doubt I'm going to get the end, and the first thing I'm going to think about is her, and I'll probably get upset, but at the same time hope her and our family will be proud, which I've no doubt they will be. Even though I'll probably say to my dad, "Oh Dad, I've just finished the Gurnoth run, did it in record time, beat Mo Farah's time," and I'll probably get, "Oh, that's nice. Did I tell you about June from Age UK? She wouldn't have been good at £2.50. It's generally how most conversations about my accomplishments go. Right. Other thing, when you do finish, as I say, chances are, to an extent, like, even if you haven't enjoyed that run and you feel like shit for most of it and you're blowing out your arse and you're tired and you just want to quit, once you finish that cross that finish line rather, chances are, once you cut your breath back and you've got that medal and everyone around you smiling and everyone's giving you a pat on the back, those memories will switch in your head and you'll be thinking, like, that was fucking outstanding, what I've just done is amazing. And you should feel like that, because that is the case. Like, you know, if you look at the stats of how many people do marathons and stuff like that, it's just, you gotta make it about you, that's all. Like, the targets that you're setting, that's what you need to be looking at, what you need to be aiming for. Like, if you finish and you got some money from work Like in my case, I think Jonathan is doing it. He's doing it for charity as well. Jonathan, so much faster than I am, but he's like built like a gazelle. So chances are, I'm just gonna get a drink of water. Chances are, he's probably going to finish a half an hour, 40 minutes for me. And obviously, you do have to do a bit of a ego check every now and again. And then just remember, it doesn't matter what he's doing. Like, you know, I know there's always discussions around the court about what was it, comparisons, the joy of theft. And I know some people don't like that expression. Personally, I can relate to it. I've done rows slower in the past than I've done them, and then I'm not celebrating the run like I should have done. I'm just thinking about how I could have done faster because I've done faster in the past. That's my interpretation of it anyway. But it's important you don't compare yourself to other people. Oh dear. You just set yourself a target and you hit the target best you can, even if your target is 4 hours and you're going to walk it. Not important. Was there anything to do with that finish? Oh, the finish itself. That's what we'll get on to. So the finish, right, I'm going to start my watch again. I'm not losing out on my mileage on Strava. So the finish itself, right, once you get done, it is absolutely rammed. There is, at least it's always been the case for me, never a phone signal. I don't know about the lads who finish super quick. Might be different for them, but time I finish generally it's when the masses finish, because I'm just an average runner at average speed. But that's like when the majority of people finish. So it is very, very busy. You can't see anything, and there's no signal. So what I would say, if you're planning on eating at the end of it and you're going to use the food vendors, bring cash, because last few times they have had issues with the car readers as well, because obviously they're off on mobile devices and they haven't been able to use that. And last thing I want is for you to get to the end and just think, you know what, I could do with a greasy quarter pounder or whatever, and then you can't actually have it because you thought the contactless payments don't work. So I'll bring a little bit of money, not an excessive amount obviously. Once you leave that side of things, then, and when you're in pubs and bars and restaurants or whatever you want to do, they all work fine. Other thing is the what's it called? If you're meeting somebody, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, if you're meeting somebody, there are like points where you can meet with like your names and stuff, like, well, your initials for your names and stuff. Agree beforehand if you're going to go first name or surname. It's always an obvious one. But if you are running for charity, use that charity village. Yeah, the one is massive. It's like a refugee camp. But if you're running for like MS Society like me or whatever, then you just say, right, I'm going to finish. Hopefully they should be tracking you. I'll see you at the MS tent, and then they can meet you there. If I'm honest, last time I did it, last year, sorry, I wasn't doing it for charity. This is the Great Scottish Run, but it's the case, right, where we could meet at a charity tent. Turns out that there's plenty of time in that one, but still, point is, feel free to use a charity tent, or just take it as a marker for where to meet people. That'd be my top tip. Now, getting back home, I'm not gonna lie, it is horrendous getting back home. I mean, obviously there's been things in the past that can't be helped, like when the heavens opened and the roads flooded and the metro's flooded, and you know, I think it took us like 5-6 hours to get home, that one, and because cars were just at a standstill. Metros queues are massive. Obviously the earlier you finish, unless you hang around, some of those queues are going to be, but for the general masses those queues are going to be long and big, and people will be queuing up for hours. Obviously there's issues that, you know, as I spoke about, I don't mean to keep bleating on about the metro, but the fleet is an old fleet apart from the new ones, and they are prone to breaking down. So there's all kinds of delays that you might not be expecting, but don't worry about it. Buses are the same, buses are around. Like this year, basically I live like 5 miles from the end, so I just made the decision to walk home this year. It's just not worth the bother. I would say as well, if you are driving there the night before to park your car in South Shields, just don't be a penis about it, I would say. Like, don't park in front of someone's house when you know they're going to need the parking space. Like, there are places where you can park where you're not being an arsehole, basically. And don't get us wrong, there are plenty of arseholes that'll do it anyway, but I just think, no, like, if I'm at work and I come back to my house on a Saturday afternoon and there's no space in my street because every car park space is being took up for somebody, and they're then gonna be running until like potentially 4 or 5 o'clock the next day. I've got a friend, Mo, he lives not far from there, and he basically says that he can't even go to work on a Saturday because if he leaves, like, he's not getting his car space back till Sunday night. That means he's got to find somewhere else to park miles away from his own house. Anyway, just be civil. That's all I'm saying, be nice, be civil. But I'm not saying don't go to South Shields and find somewhere to park. Just be aware of what roads are closed. Yeah, because the roads do get very busy. Again, just, that's it, just use common sense. But be prepared that you could be waiting for hours. If you're there and you just feel like being social, then finish the run, go for a few beers, get somebody to meet you with some, maybe, oh shit, I've got a stinging eye. Like some clean clobber, maybe some face wipes or whatever, and then you get sorted that way. What was I gonna say? I'll come back in a second. Remember, it's basically what I would call sweets and signs, if I had to give this one a chapter. If someone has made the effort to buy sweets and they're handing them out there, choice is yours to take one. Generally, it doesn't always start about Hebburn or Jarrow about 6-7 miles in. Though there was somebody, if you were on a sunny time once, giving out X-Lollies and they were lovely. But generally speaking, it starts around about Hebburn, Jarrow-ish area. Take a sweet. If you don't take a sweet, say no but thank you. It's basically just rewarding the effort. You know, someone's spent money in a time where, you know, things cost a lot, and they're just offering you something to try and help them be nice for. Some people might just be, you know, they went to the ballot and they didn't get in, so this is just their way of being involved. Like, you know, was it last year, I'll pepper dishing out donuts and things like that. It's just ways of people, especially in the running community, trying to get involved, or sometimes just kids wanting to be nice. So do that. I mean, last year didn't do the Great North Run, but there's stood at the side with some sweets. I think we were slightly hampered by the fact that it was pissing it down, so kind of had to keep stuff covered. But you know, the kids loved it even more when people actually came and took the sweets. But yeah, the other one, signs. Is pay attention to signs. Like, if you're lagging a bit and you just think, like, I need a bit of perking up, just read the signs. Honestly, some of them are funny, some of them will be repetitive because I've seen stuff online that got rid of it. Doesn't matter. Someone, much like many things, they made the effort, they took the time. You know, I'll say, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some of the ones I've seen, like, you know, if you die, I'll pause your Strava. I've seen one that's like, I've been training 6 months to paint this sign, not to hold this sign. One at Edinburgh Marathon, that said, free Vaseline application. The guy standing at the side with his Vaseline in his hands with a rubber glove, which I thought was very amusing. But there's all sorts, like, you know, little kids, like Mario Mushroom Science, and, like, you know, touch your power up. Just do it. Like, acknowledge the signs. Something's funny, laugh at it. So someone's holding up signs saying "Good luck, Daddy," run past, and go like, "Oh, how did you know my name?" You know, that stuff. Bit of a laugh, because which does lead me on to like one of the last things. In fact, we'll finish with this because I'm nearly finished, you know. Just no matter what, right? Just, and I will swear, just to emphasise the importance, just fucking enjoy it. It is, or can be such a laugh if you let it be. You know, like, try not to take it too seriously if you don't want to. Like, if you are training like your best and you know your legs are just starting to give in, you know, there'll be that initial disappointment, but just make the best of it. And if you're going there for a bit of fun, have a bit of fun. If you're going there to break records, try your best to break records. Just enjoy it. Like, it's a massive build up. It's not a perfect event, but it's like many things, you'll get out of it what you put into it. Like, if you haven't trained very well, chances are you're not going to have a very good one, but you'll know why. Then you go, right, well, I know what I need to do for next time. Treat it as a learning exercise, but still enjoy yourself while you're doing it. You know, I say, have some sweets, have a laugh with people at the start, have a laugh with people at the end. You know, chances are you're going to be seeing, like, you know, those two runners, like a bit Rich, like Al Pepper, Freddie runs. I don't know if Scott's doing it this year, but hey, there's all these people there that are doing it. Endorphin Empire, he might be doing it, I don't know. Just enjoy it. Like, go up them, talk to them. Everyone I've just mentioned there, I've met apart from Endorphin Empire, and do you know what? They've all been absolutely delightful. Delightful. Obviously, I'm not quite as social as them, but I'm civil, and I will try to talk to you if I'm not being too shy. But if that's not your thing, and you want to whack your earphones on and do that, you do that. Honestly, that's what keeps you happy. That's what it's about. Like, no one's expecting you to be up there with the Mo Farahs and Paula Radcliffes of the world, but what you are there for is to have fun. And the only thing I can stress about the Great North Run is that just have fun with it, honestly. Anyway, I was only meant to do 5k. I did a very slow 3.5 mile instead. That's fine. Anyway, I think the plan, if you are a regular follower, I talked to Kirsty last night. I think our plan, I'm gonna sit down while I'm doing this bit, is we are doing Hampsley Forest Park Run next week. I've ran like a 10k around Hampsley Forest. I don't know if it's the same route as this. But it's basically just, I'm going to go to Hampsley Forest, something for the kids to do while they're still on break. I know some of you might be in Scotland watching your kids went back a little while back, but yeah, that's the plan. I've got sweat in my eye now and it's proper stinging. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you pick up on any hints or tips. There's probably not much structure and a lot of rambling involved, which is generally my style. I can't really keep my thoughts together at times. Should really just write in a big list on my arm, it'll be easier. But yeah, I will see you next week, and I hope this has been helpful for, like, even if it's one person. All good, and toodaloo, bye bye.